The Earth spins a lot. In fact, it makes a complete turn in 24 hours. And the Earth also rotates around the Sun. And not only that, but actually Earth do both at the same time, spinning 365 times while rotating around the Sun once. Imagine the amount of knowledge and technology to know all of that stuff. And somehow Egyptians knew all about this more than 400 years ago. How? How? That's exactly what we're gonna see right now. So I'm not judging you or anything, but I don't think you live in a cave. And probably you know about the day and night cycle, but I'm just guessing. The Egyptians obviously knew about this as well, but what they really needed was a way to measure time.
What time is it? I don't know.
But don't worry, because the Egyptians discovered something. Objects have shadows. The light from the sun hits the object, and then it generates a shadow. When the sun is in another place, then the shadow is in another place.
We can use this for sure.
And they did. They invented this, the sundial. This one in the image was created in 1500 BC. I'll explain how it works. It's pretty simple. Go outside with your sundial and this will happen. Do you see that stick on top of the sundial? It generates a shadow, and that shadow works just like a pointer. When the sun is in another position, also the shadow will be in another position. And with that invention, we have a way to measure time. In the sundial, every line that you see is a different hour. With that invention, we are left with only one decision to make. How many hours are there in a day? So, let's count how many hours the Egyptians created. Let's go back to the sundial and see its divisions. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours in a day. Interesting. Why did they choose 12? But actually, they didn't. Hello, my fellow worker. Oh, hello, but I'm actually not a paid worker. I'm a slave. Oh, okay. Slave, whatever. We have interesting news. We invented time. Cool, but I have a question. Go on. How much time that I need to work? So I divided the day in 10 hours. Okay, but of these 10 hours, how much time should I work? What do you mean? All of them. All? How am I supposed to even do this? You're right. Actually, I'll give you 2 extra hours. Because you need an hour to actually go to work and another to go back home. Now it's perfect. No, I was thinking more like, some hours to rest. No? No. So that's essentially what happened. They didn't divide the day in 12 hours. They actually divided in 10 plus 2, which is 12. Yeah, I can accept this. But there is a difference. The day has 10 hours, and we also have 2 hours of twilight. And the twilight is essentially the period when the sun is not on the sky, but it's not dark either. So, everything is okay. The day has 12 hours. But what about the night? Let's go back to the sundial. It uses the sun to tell time. Then, at night, it's useless. we need to find something else. Maybe there is something that works just like the sun, that goes from side to side in the sky. And yes, there is. The stars. That's how it works. In the day, you use your sundial to tell time normally. Then, the night will come. In that moment, you need to pay attention to the stars that are rising in that direction. Then, the first group of stars will appear. By the way, these groups of stars are called decans. When that first constellation appears, that means that we are in the first hour of the night. Then, wait a little bit more, and the second constellation will appear. And now it's the second hour of the night, then the third, then the fourth, and so on, until it gets to the constellation number 12. Then the night ends and the day starts again. And that's how we can measure time in the day and in the night easily, every day. Obviously, the stars don't appear in the shape of the number. That's just to make it easier to observe in the animation, okay? But there is something strange that happens after 10 days. So let's wait 10 days. On the 10th day, the constellation number 1 is not the first to rise. Actually, the constellation number 2 rises first, and also at the end of the night. 12 is not the last number. Now we have a new constellation, constellation 13. That's quite strange. So, we decided we have 12 hours in the night, and we have 12 constellations, or 12 decans. But after 10 days, the constellations actually shift. And now, the first constellation is actually the number 2, and the last is 13. But we still have 12 constellations. And that phenomenon continues to happen. And now the last constellation is 14, and then 15, and then 16, 17, and so on. But something very interesting happens in that moment, when the decan 36 is the last one. Wait 10 more days. We should expect the constellation 37, but it never comes. Instead, the constellation number 1 is back. Now we can understand this as a cycle of 36 decans, and it repeats itself in a long period of time. But how big is this cycle? So let's think a little bit. There are 36 decans. Each one appears in 10 days. So 36 times 10 equals to 360 days. And that's how the Egyptians discovered the year. Okay, but when the year starts, what is like the 1st of January for them? And the answer for this is present in their most important thing, the Nile. Look to the Nile. It is at a low level. However, it rises to a high level, and that's the flood of the Nile. And then it gets low again, and then high, and again they found another cycle. It seems like the Egyptians are very good at finding cycles. Do you remember the decan number 1? Do you want to see it in real life? So here we go. That's the decan number 1 in real life. And that star is Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. Actually, never mind, it's the sun. But second, it's Sirius. But the Egyptians didn't call it Sirius. They actually called it the triangle. And I think I can understand why. They actually wrote its name like this. You draw a triangle and a star. Triangle, star. And in Egyptian language, it's Sab'at. But what is so special about that constellation for it to be the first? And the reason is not because it contains the brightest star. We can find the reason, as I told you before, in the Nile. And now there is a very interesting coincidence. The Nile starts to rise on the same day that Sirius appears. So, Sirius appears and the Nile starts to rise on the same day. Also, both of them happen yearly. That's such a coincidence. Now I'm starting to understand why they believe in so many gods. And the Egyptians understood the year as having 3 seasons. Yes, not 4, 3 seasons. The first was called Achet. That means inundation season. That season happens when the level of the Nile starts to rise. Then we have the second season, called Pirate, and that means the growth season. In that season, the level of the Nile goes down, and because of that, some fertile land emerges, thus allowing the growth of the plants. The third season is called Shemu. That's the harvest season. Now, the level of the Nile is too low, and the plants have grown, so that's time to harvest. And that's the cycle. Inundation, growth, harvest. Inundation, growth, harvest. So now we can build the complete Egyptian calendar. Let's say that's the whole year, so we divide it in 3 seasons. Achet, Paret, and Shemu. As the Egyptians are very good at finding cycles, they found another one. The moon phases. The moon starts like that, starts growing, gets to the largest size and starts to diminish again and go back to the start. That takes about 30 days. So we can fit 4 of these moon cycles in each season, thus dividing the year in 12 months. The names of the months were very straightforward. First month of inundation, second of inundation, third of inundation, and fourth of inundation, and the same applies for all seasons. And now we can divide each month in weeks of 10 days each. 10 days because of the decans. Do you remember this? And in each week a new star will appear on the sky. That's pretty cool. Now we just divide each week in 10 days, and that's the complete Egyptian calendar. And don't forget, the first day of the year is when Sirius, or the triangle, appears on the sky. And that's it. 10 days for a week, 30 for a month, 120 for a season, and 360 for the whole year. And to be honest, I'm thinking that's better than what we currently use. Because, look, that is our current calendar. January has 31 days. February has 28 or 29 depending on the year. March has 31 days. April has 30 days. So there is no consistency at all. And also, for 2024, January starts at Monday, February at Thursday, March at Friday, April at Monday again. So as you can see, no consistency. And none of these problems happen on the Egyptian calendar. But you might be thinking, wasn't the year 365 days instead of 360? And you would be right. That is in fact true. The Earth goes around the Sun in 365 days. And that became a problem on that calendar. For example, Sirius appears on the first day of the year. But when a year passes, it actually appears 5 days later. Another year passes, and again it appears 5 days later.
Oh, it's almost like 5 days are missing.
Yeah, indeed. So we just need to add 5 more days and it's fixed. So to which month we add these extra 5 days? And the answer is none of these. Actually, we wait for the year to pass and then we add the 5 extra days. So these 5 extra days occur after the year, not in any month, after. And now the problem is fixed. We have the first year, 5 days, the second year, and then 5 days, the third year, and then 5 days. Always. It's very interesting that they understood these 5 extra days to be outside the year. Another interesting fact is that in these 5 bonus days, many gods were born. For example, Osiris in the first day, Horus in the second day, Set in the third, Isis in the fourth, and Nephthys in the fifth. But I still have a question. Why looking to the stars can make me understand the length of a year? Because, look, what is a year? A year is the time it takes the Earth to go around the Sun. So, as you can see, Earth and Sun. Nowhere here talks about stars. It only involves the Earth and the Sun. So where stars appear in that equation? But these observations make sense. Let's say that from Earth we can see, that much. So now we can see just that star. But as the Earth rotates around the Sun, we will be able to see even more stars. But that little and lonely star we will not be able to see. The Earth will continue its movement, and we will gain sight of new stars and lose sight of others. And that explains the Deccan phenomenon. It's kinda crazy how we looked away from Earth to understand Earth's movement.